Hey guys, welcome back to LAB, back on the law theme this week after a little detour to the broader side last week, which was a video all about personal branding. So if any of you guys are interested in building a personal brand, then please check out my video from last week. So this week we are back on the Corona theme. We took a little break to give you a bit of light relief, but I thought I'd come back this week just to give you a little bit of insight on what the financial and practical implications are of COVID-19 on my particular area of work. I'm going to split it into those two sections. So first I'm going to talk about financial impacts and then I'm going to talk about practical impacts. Just to add a bit of background for anybody who doesn't know what I do. So I am a personal injury lawyer, but I have a real special niche, which is international serious injury. So what that means is all my claims have some kind of cross-border element. For the most part, it is British nationals who are injured abroad, but I've also had some cases of foreign nationals who are injured here. But the key is that they all have some kind of cross-border element. Because I deal with serious injuries, all my clients are sadly catastrophically injured. So all my cases are worth over £50,000 and the majority are worth over £250,000. And when I talk about worth, I mean the compensation that the claimant is entitled to. I deal with all different types of claims. So some people who were injured on holiday, I deal with military claims where people have been injured whilst they were stationed abroad somewhere. I also do a lot of cosmetic surgery claims where people have travelled abroad to have cosmetic procedures. So all kinds of stuff, extremely varied. So let's talk about the financial impact first. The immediate financial impact is not as bad as you might think, but I stress the word immediate for reasons that will become clear. One of the reasons for that is the way cases are funded. So although all my cases have some kind of cross-border element, the majority of them can be brought in the courts of England and Wales. I do have some cases which are being brought in foreign courts all over the world, but the majority are being brought within England and Wales. And what that means is that they can be funded by way of a no-win, no-fee agreement, which you've probably heard of on the telly, which basically means that the clients don't have to pay their own legal costs. If they are successful in winning their claim, the majority of their costs will be payable by the losing party, and a small proportion of their costs will be payable, but only out of their compensation which they receive at the end. And if their claim is not successful, then they don't have to pay anything at all. All of the out-of-pocket expenses will be covered by an insurance policy. So what that means practically is that a claimant's financial position in no way affects their ability to bring a claim. So when you relate that to the current situation, it means that even if the claimant has lost their job or their business has collapsed, that doesn't in any way affect their claim that they're bringing. So that means that we've been able to continue with our cases more or less as normal. I'll get to the practical side in a bit. There would obviously be a financial impact if, for example, the paying party collapsed. And for the most part, the paying party in my claims are an insurer of some kind, because I'm often pursuing a claim against a hotel who has an insurer, or a company or an employer or a hospital or a clinic who are funded by an insurance company. And more often than not, insurance companies are robust enough to deal with a situation like this and stay afloat. So I haven't personally been in a situation where any of my paying parties have gone under yet. So financially, for the existing claims, we're pretty much okay. What about new claims coming in? So this is where we've seen a decline in inquiries, and I think almost every sector across the law has seen a decline in new people approaching them for legal advice and legal representation. The exceptions to that are of course areas like employment law, which are very busy, insurance law potentially, and potentially technology as well, as there's been a huge boom in technology in the last few weeks. So there will be a few sectors which are busier than normal, but on the whole, most sectors are going to be quieter than normal. So what effect does not having lots of new claims coming in have on my work? Again, the immediate effect is not that significant because of the types of cases I have. These cases take probably a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5, 6, 7 years to settle. And because I keep my caseload more or less at capacity, I will only take on a new case when another one settles, so kind of a one in, one out policy. But because they go on for so long, I often only settle a handful of cases per year and will therefore only take on a handful of new cases per year. So the fact that I haven't got a constant stream of new cases coming in isn't as detrimental as you might think, because I've got a decent body of work to keep me going for the next few months, even years. However, Where that comes into play is a bit later on, because as I start to settle cases, if I don't have those new cases coming in to replace them, eventually I will run out of work. And that's where I've stressed the word immediately, because actually in my specific work area, the effects of the current period are likely to be seen much later because of the way in which my cases proceed. So that's why you're seeing a lot of businesses potentially making cuts now, cuts to salaries, furloughing, deferring partner profit, because some areas may not be affected right now, but they may be affected in 6 months, a year, 2 years' time by the current situation. So businesses are making cuts now to make sure they're protected in the event of those things happening. This is in contrast to areas of law which are perhaps quite transactional, where they turn over cases in a matter of months. And in those types of sectors, they constantly need new business coming through to keep cash flow going. And that's why in some circumstances, you've already seen some businesses collapsing and some sectors collapsing, because they rely on that high turnover of cases, which is just not happening at the moment. There could be a whole host of other reasons why businesses are collapsing, but that is an example of a reason why one might be. Moving on then to the more practical impacts. Clearly the most obvious change is the move to remote working, and that was quite a big change for me because I was not someone who worked from home very often. There are lots of people in my office who do work from home a lot of the time, so we were pretty much fully set up for that to happen, but it was just something that I personally had to get used to because I was used to being in the office. So I've had to make use of a lot of technology and a lot of systems that I didn't actually even know existed until this happened, and I had a few teething problems, but I'm pretty much up to scratch now. I mean, there are still some things that I need that sometimes I can't do. For example, in litigation, we do rely on original documents in a lot of circumstances, and all of the original documents are in the office. So there are certain circumstances where I've had to use workarounds. There's also the difficulty in that, yes, I can work remotely, but there are a number of different parties involved in bringing my claims. You've got the court, for example, you've got your clients, you've got your opponent. In a lot of cases, I've also got a foreign lawyer on the ground in the relevant country, and not all those people might be fully operational remotely, and the claim can only move as fast as everybody who is relevant can move. Does that make sense? So there have been communication difficulties with various different parties in the litigation, which has resulted in some things being delayed and some things being postponed indefinitely until this situation resolves. Delays often do have a knock-on financial impact as well, because obviously if we can't move these claims forward, then it's going to be longer until the claim is resolved and the clients ultimately receive their compensation and we ultimately get paid. Because for the most part, we don't get paid until the conclusion of the claim. There are some circumstances where you can receive interim payments if liability has already been agreed, but generally the base position is that we do not get paid until that claim settles. So the more that process is delayed, the longer our payment is delayed. Because virtually all my claims are litigated, that means the court is involved. And of course, we've had this whole hoo-ha of the courts moving online, which has been a surprisingly successful process, actually. But naturally, the court have prioritised very urgent hearings ahead of the more routine ones. And a lot of my claims, the hearings that we have, are quite routine. So a lot of those have been pushed back, and that does hinder case progression in some circumstances. If you're at loggerheads with your opposing party about a particular issue, and you can't move forward until you resolve it by way of a court hearing, then we just have to wait until our court hearing is relisted, and then that does have a knock-on effect, obviously, as I've just described. We've also got things like clients not being able to attend medical appointments, and that is a big issue because medical appointments are absolutely key in personal injury litigation. That is your primary evidence, is your medical evidence, and in nearly every situation, a medical expert will want to have a physical examination of the claimant, and that just can't happen at the moment for obvious reasons. So obviously there are some cases where we are putting things on hold until that can happen. I've also had a number of clients that have been put under extreme emotional stress by the current situation, and a lot of them, of course, were under significant emotional stress anyway due to their injuries. So there has been a lot of just spending time talking to my clients and talking them through this process and through this situation, which is something alien to all of us, and is something that we've all had to adapt and respond to as best as we possibly can. Okay, that is kind of a whistle-stop tour of all of the things that came to mind. There's probably things that I've missed, and I will jump on here and keep doing updates if things significantly change. Hopefully that's been helpful and given you a little bit of insight into what I do and the impact of COVID-19. And hopefully it's not put you off being a lawyer. Okay guys, have a great week. I'll be back next week with something completely different. Bye guys!